waiting for my IV. Had a CAT scan, or no, CT scan, an internal and an external ultrasound, and blood work, urinalysis. Trying to figure out what's wrong. Waiting for results and waiting for my IV. Friday night is lit. You guys, it is day 3 of laying in bed. I got back from the hospital Saturday morning, and I went straight from the emergency room to the football field because my daughter was cheering at a football game Saturday and I had to go. It's just mom life. Sometimes there's no time to rest. I was laughing with my mom about it because, you know, moms out there will understand. Like, this is just mom life. Nobody cares when mom is sick. Like, mom can't even get sick. Like, it's so typical. That's why it's like comical, even though it's not, because it's kind of serious and I should really take better care of my health, I guess, and rest. But friggin' go to cheer practice Friday in major pain, so bad that I'm literally crying on Friday. Go to the emergency room Friday night, spend the night, get discharged Saturday morning, and then go straight from the emergency room to the football field to go back right back into mom life, you know? Just no rest for moms. It's funny, but it's not. But anyways, it's been 3 days since the emergency room, and I am currently in bed. This is my current situation. Never mind my gut. I'm so bloated after what happened to me, and I am just I can't even get out of my pajamas. I can't freaking clean. Look at all these waters. Just, my room needs to be cleaned. I need to shower. I haven't fucking showered since last week. I know that's fucking gross, but I'm just gonna keep it real. I have not felt well enough to do anything hygienic except for brush my teeth. I just feel like fucking shit still. So yeah, I just wanted to update you guys. And I'm gonna tell you guys what happened to me. So if you want to hear what happened and why I went to the hospital, then just please keep on watching. For some reason, filming this video has been so stressful. I tried to film it like when it was all happening, but I was just in too much pain, so I didn't. I let myself heal and get better. Then last week when I decided to sit down and try and film this video, just disaster happened. And then today I sat down and tried to film the video. My camera died in the middle. Just for whatever reason, this video has not been easy to film. And so instead of stressing on it being perfect, I'm just going to upload it as is. I realize that I am a little scatterbrained and I go off on tangents sometimes, but I hope that you guys are able to follow along and that this story makes sense. It'll all come together in the end, I promise. But I also wanted to warn you guys that this video is very long, if you haven't already noticed from the timestamp on this video. So feel free to grab a snack, grab yourself something to drink so you can kind of just kick back and chill and hear my story. And also, last but not least, I talk about medical and health stuff and body stuff. And so if you're grossed out or easily offended, maybe this video is not for you. So anyways, now let's get started. All right, let's try this shit again. All right, so last time I sat down to film this video, I sat down and started filming and started talking about what happened to me. And then at the end of the video, when I went to press the record button to stop the camera from recording, the camera like froze, and like it didn't matter what freaking button I pushed, nothing was doing anything, nothing was happening. I couldn't even press the off and on button on the camera because it just didn't, like nothing would happen. So the camera like froze. I had to like take the battery out of the freaking camera, and lo and behold, it was never recording. So I was literally talking to myself for about an hour telling myself about what happened to myself. So anyways, I'm pretty sure we're recording now. Hopefully my battery doesn't die in the middle of this. But let's get into the story. So a few weeks ago, I posted a story on my Instagram. I was in the emergency room and everyone was very kind to me and they were asking me. I feel like half of the people were genuinely concerned for me and then the other half were just nosy and they wanted to know why I was in the emergency room, which is fine because I'm the same way. Especially if someone is well enough to record themselves or post on Instagram while they're in the emergency room, I'm like, okay, they're fine, they're alive. What's wrong? What happened? You know, we're all nosy. We're all curious by nature. That's fine. So I figured I would film a YouTube video about my experience and what happened to me. And also, I wanted to film this and put this out there because I feel like it might help someone. Women specifically, because this is a female problem. I feel like this could potentially help somebody if they're ever in the same situation I was. So a few weeks ago, I started having symptoms of what I thought was a UTI because I had, for about 2 weeks, I had like the frequent urge to urinate, and then if I would like try and sit down on the toilet and pee, like nothing would happen. And that was accompanied by dull, constant pain in my right side or my right flank area, which is the area like right below your rib cage in your side, and in my lower back. And I also had dark urine. So those are all signs of a UTI, and those lasted for the first week. They were like not consistent. So I kind of blew it off. And I had things to do. I went to an Urban Decay event. During that time, my period also came and went. What else? I went to a bachelorette party weekend thing away in Palm Springs. So I had like, oh, and I had to work. So I just had other things. So like, I kind of ignored those symptoms of UTI, or so I thought. And they weren't consistent either, so I was kind of thinking maybe I'm just being dramatic and maybe I just need to drink some more water. I don't know. So after about a week of those symptoms coming and going, the side pain and the back pain the second week remained constant. And it was so uncomfortable. It was painful, but it wasn't like sharp, excruciating pain. It was like just a constant, dull pain, but it was a strong pain. But it was constant and like, you know, it's not like sharp, excruciating, but it was still there. I don't know how to explain it. It was just so uncomfortable. But I had to work one day and I remember just telling myself like, just tough it out, just go to work. So I didn't really think about it. I kind of just worked through it, whatever. And then the next day after that, it was like so bad, so I took like 6 Advil and that took the pain away. So, which I kind of felt weird about because like at this point I'm just like numbing the pain and ignoring it, when in reality I also felt like, okay, like you think you have a UTI, is your body trying to tell you something's wrong? Like maybe you shouldn't be taking all these Advil to get rid of the pain. Like maybe you should like consider that something is maybe wrong with you. And I was starting to think that maybe I had a UTI that was turning into a kidney infection, because like I said, I also had dark urine and my urine was getting darker. And then after the bachelorette weekend, you know, I obviously drank that weekend, and I felt like if I had already had a UTI, probably drinking on top of that isn't gonna help, and maybe it made it worse. And then because the side and the lower back pain were now at this point on the second week of these symptoms, the side and lower back pain was constant. It wasn't coming and going anymore. It was just there and staying, and it wasn't going anywhere. I started to think that maybe this UTI was turning into a kidney infection. And I'm pretty educated on like UTIs and kidney infections because I used to work at Planned Parenthood when I was 18, and like most of the clients or the patients would come in with, you know, one of the main reasons people would come in besides for birth control was for UTIs and kidney infections. So I knew the severity because we were told that you can never turn anyone away who thinks they have a UTI. That's how I was trained. So like in my training at Planned Parenthood, we had to learn everything about UTIs and kidney infections, and I was just a front office girl, whatever. I just worked the computer and checked people in. But we were told, like, if it's 7 o'clock and it's closing time and someone comes through the door and they're like, I think I have a UTI, we cannot turn them away. Like, we need to see them because it can be a serious issue. So because of that, I knew how serious, like, a UTI could be and how even more serious a kidney infection can be. And if you don't know, a UTI can turn into a kidney infection if you don't treat it. And like some of the main symptoms of a kidney infection are like lower back and side pain, because that's like where your kidney is. So yeah, so I was like starting to think maybe I had a UTI that is now turning into a kidney infection because I was at first ignoring the signs of this possible UTI. And yeah. So long story short, for about 2 weeks I thought I had a UTI. Now the end of this 2-week period, I'm starting to think it's a kidney infection. And I actually had some antibiotics in my cabinet that the urgent care had given me like back in 2017. I went to urgent care, I think for a yeast infection, and they prescribed me antibiotics for a UTI, and they accidentally did that. And I don't know how they accidentally did that, but I just remember I contacted them and I was like, I think you guys gave me the wrong medication, because I've had many a yeast infection before, and I've also had BV a million times, which is gross, but it's normal. But I've never really had a UTI. So I remember telling urgent care, I'm like, I think you guys gave me the wrong medication. Like, this isn't what I normally get for a yeast infection. Like, I've had enough yeast infections to know what medication I should be taking, and the one that they prescribed me didn't seem right. So I like called them back and I was like, hey, like, I think you guys gave me the wrong thing. And then they're like, what did we give you, blah blah blah. And I was like, you gave me this. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we gave you the wrong thing, let us call you in a new prescription. So I had this antibiotic for UTI that urgent care gave me back in 2017, and I didn't need it. So I remember putting it in my medicine cabinet and saving it, and I was like, I'm gonna save this for a rainy day just in case I ever get a UTI. I've never ever had a UTI. So fast forward to now, I'm like starting to get stressed because it's been 2 weeks of these symptoms. They're getting worse, and I start thinking that maybe it's a kidney infection. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take this antibiotic and hopefully that'll help, because I don't have insurance right now. So I didn't really want to go to urgent care again because it's kind of expensive. It'd be like $300 after everything's said and done. So I was gonna go to Planned Parenthood, but they couldn't get me in for like 3 days. So I was like, okay, in the meantime, I'm just gonna take this antibiotic. Big deal, I never do this, and hopefully if I do have a UTI, it'll help. So I started taking it. It's like expired this year in April, so it's only been a couple months. It's not like it's been expired for 5 years. It's been expired for like a couple months. So I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna take it anyways. So then during that, you know, this window that I'm waiting for my appointment to be seen for this UTI, or what I think is a UTI, I went to Target and I used the restroom at Target, and like, because I was in a public bathroom, I was like squatting over the toilet while I peed, and because like the angle that I'm squatting, I'm like looking down into the toilet, and as I'm peeing, like there's like little specks of blood. It almost looks like tiny little blood clots. So now I'm like, okay, great, now I'm like peeing blood. Like my urine is really dark yellow, and I don't really have like the feeling to like frequently urinate anymore, and it doesn't really burn or anything. Maybe just like slight discomfort, but not anything like too alarming. But I have, you know, dark urine. Now it looks like there's little specks of blood in my urine, and also the side and lower back pain that I had is like really, it's like getting worse. It's like even, it's so uncomfortable and painful. And so yeah, just started to freak out, whatever. So then the day, 3 days pass, and I'm still taking that antibiotic that I had in my medicine cabinet. And I feel like this story is kind of all over the place, but just bear with me. It's time for my appointment at Planned Parenthood. So I go, I tell, you know, I pee in a cup, whatever, and then the nurse practitioners ask me questions. I tell her that I found this antibiotic in my cabinet and that I'm taking it, and she said, okay, that's fine, you know, it's not like you take random antibiotics all the time. She's like, she asked me the name of it because I brought the bottle with me, and she's like, okay, that's what I would have prescribed you had you had a UTI. She's like, but we ran your urine and you don't have a UTI. She's like, it could be because you started taking the antibiotic 3 days ago, so maybe it's actually clearing up a possible UTI that you had. She's like, but there's no trace of infection in your urine, like you're fine. She's like, I don't know why you're having the side and back pain. And I'm like, I am not crazy, like there's something wrong with me. Okay, we ruled out UTI, it's not UTI. There's something wrong with me because my freaking side and lower back are hurting so bad, like what the hell. So she's like, okay, let me check your kidneys. And she's like, honestly, if you think it's a kidney infection, you need to go to the emergency room. She's like, that can be really serious and it can get bad really quick. She's like, next time if you think you have a kidney infection, don't come here, just go straight to the emergency room. So I'm like, great. She's like, but I'll check your kidneys. She's like, I don't think you have, you know, kidney infection or UTI because your urine sample was fine. And it could be kidney stones because you have blood in your urine. But anyway, so she's like, okay, like lean forward because I'm sitting in a chair, and she like taps my lower back. She's like, does this hurt? And I'm like, no. She's like barely tapping it. She's like, okay, well, it's not kidney infection because it doesn't hurt. But I'm like, okay, then what's wrong? She's like, I don't know. So then sends me on my way, whatever. I'm left confused, but at least I know that I don't have a freaking UTI. So, the next day, because my appointment was on Thursday, the next day is Friday, and I'm at home working on the computer, and I'm sitting in a chair for literally hours because I'm editing a video, and this whole time my side and lower back are hurting. I'm still taking that antibiotic because she told me, she's like, just finish the round of antibiotics because that's what you're supposed to do with antibiotics. It's like really important. And still taking this batch of antibiotics, sitting on the computer all day in a chair, and my freaking side and lower back are still hurting, and now they're hurting even more. And after about 4 hours of sitting in this chair editing a video, it's like now excruciating pain, and my whole abdominal cavity hurts, and I'm nauseous. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong? Like, there's something wrong with me. I know I'm not going crazy. I know I'm not being dramatic. Like, something is freaking wrong with me. So I start thinking like, okay, maybe it's just because I'm sitting in this chair all day editing a video, which I do often. But I'm thinking like maybe I pinched a muscle or something, because the lady at the Planned Parenthood told me like, I don't know why your side and your back are hurting. It could just be a muscle related injury or something. So I'm like, okay, maybe I did injure like a muscle in my body or my side, and sitting in this chair editing all day is not helping. I don't know. But at this point, I'm like, okay, she said it's not a UTI. She said it's not a kidney infection, so I must just be going crazy. I'm like, maybe it's a pulled muscle. I don't know. But now it's like excruciating. It's like almost unbearable pain. And it's now no longer just my side and my lower back. It's my entire abdominal cavity. It's not my stomach. Like, I don't feel like, it's not one of those like, oh my god, I got a shit stomach aches. It's not even a stomach ache. It's just my whole abdominal cavity is just in pain. And I was also really bloated and feeling super nauseous. And my daughter was at school at this point. I had to pick her up from school at 2:30 like normal, and then she had cheer practice at 5. And that particular day was the was the day before her first game. She's a cheerleader and she cheers for a football team, so it was the football team's first game. And that night at practice, the girls were gonna go to practice and practice for an hour, and then we were gonna leave, and each cheerleader was assigned 3 football players, and what the girls were gonna do is drive to each of the boys' houses that they had. So we had to go to 3 different houses, and we had decorated signs and stuff, and we were gonna decorate our 3 boys, you know, each of their front doors, so that when they got back from practice that Friday night, they would see their front door all decorated with a nice poster for them, some balloons, a basket of like their favorite treats, and it was just supposed to be like a celebration of their first game the next day. So it was kind of like a big deal, right? And I was having this pain, oh my god, but that's freaking mom life. So what I'm trying to say is, like, there was no time for me to go to the emergency room or like worry about what was wrong with me, because I had other shit going on. I'm a single mom, and just, I mean, her dad is around to help me, and he was there that day with me, thank God. But like, there's no time for me to like worry about what's wrong with me, even though there should be, but there's not. But so I'm like laying on the couch. It's a couple hours before I have to get Zoe from school, and my mom is at the house talking to me about like why I'm in so much pain. And you know, she knew that for the last couple weeks I've been thinking that I have a UTI, and then I started thinking that it's a kidney infection. And then she, you know, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, supposedly I don't have a UTI, supposedly I don't have a kidney infection. I don't know what's wrong. And then she mentions, she's like, well, maybe it's your ovarian cyst, because I was told by my OBGYN that I have an ovarian cyst. But she told me this like 8 years ago when I had my daughter. Like, she was doing an ultrasound, just a routine ultrasound on me, and she had told me like, you have an ovarian cyst, but she's like, it's small, don't worry, it shouldn't cause you any problems, they're super common, and it's never caused me any problems. I didn't even know it was there. Like, if she hadn't have told me that it was there, I wouldn't even know. So my mom brings that to my attention. She's like, maybe it's your ovarian cyst. And the reason my mom brought this to my attention was because my mom had an ovarian cyst. Hers was the size of a grapefruit, so it's like this freaking big. And hers did not rupture. She had hers surgically removed. She had like a huge scar from it, and this was when I was like 3 years old, so it was like 24 years ago. But my mom knew she had one because she could feel it. She said one day she was bending over to like tie her shoe, and she felt something poke her from the inside, and so she knew something was wrong. She went to her doctor. They said, you have an ovarian cyst, whatever. My mom's was so large that they suggested removing it surgically, so that's what she did. So she brought to my attention that this pain could be from my ovarian cyst, and I didn't even think that was a possibility. I didn't even think about my ovarian cyst. I haven't thought about my ovarian cyst since 8 years ago when my OBGYN told me that I had one. But now I'm like, okay, this makes more sense. Maybe that's what's wrong. But still doesn't really explain like the symptoms of UTI that I had. But maybe I did have a UTI, and then taking that antibiotic that I found in my cabinet like cleared up that UTI, because then those symptoms went away after I took that antibiotic. And maybe I just simultaneously had those 2 problems. I don't know. So anyways, in so much pain, now I'm like, okay, maybe this is an ovarian cyst issue. But I don't have time to think about it or deal with it, because I have to pick Zoe up from school at this point, and I have to take her to cheer to do these activities that we had planned for cheer. And like I said, her dad had planned to come with me that day to cheer and help us decorate the boys' houses, and he did. And I'm so thankful that he was with me, because he met me at cheer practice, but I drove Zoe to cheer practice, and driving to cheer practice I was literally in tears crying, because I was in so much pain and I felt so shitty, because like I said, I was now extremely nauseous and just my whole abdominal cavity was in pain. So I'm driving to cheer. I'm like trying to hold it together because I don't want to freak Zoe out and I don't want to cry in front of her. But I'm like kind of crying and like just so frustrated and in pain and like stressed at this point, because I still don't really know what's wrong with me. going to cheer, whatever, just gonna freaking tough it out. Get to cheer. Zoe's dad, his name is Jimmy, he meets me there, and, you know, we're sitting on the bleachers. I'm telling him what's going on. He's like, you need to go to the emergency room, like, go now. And he was like, you need to go, just go. Like, I'll handle Zoe, don't worry about it. Like, go to the emergency room now. He's like, I'll take you. Like, let me take you. Like, he was just so helpful, and he really wanted me to go because he's worried about me. He's genuinely worried about me. And he was like, I don't want anything to happen to you. Like, what if you die? What if this is something, like, really wrong with you? Like, you never know. He's like, you're a freaking mom. Like, you need to be here for Zoe. Like, we need you here. He's like, I don't want to do this on my own. He's like, you need to go to the emergency room. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm just gonna wait. Like I mentioned earlier, I also didn't want to go because I don't have insurance, health insurance, so I don't want a freaking hefty ER bill either. So I'm like, no. And yeah, he starts getting mad at me because I like won't go, but I just want to do the cheer stuff, whatever. So then we go to each of the boys' house to decorate their front door. And at this point, I'm in so much pain, like, I have to lay down. So I have the front passenger seat in Jimmy's truck reclined as far back as it'll go. And I just have to, like, literally lay back and, like, not move. Because the only time that I feel good now, at this point, is when I'm freaking laying down. I feel like, okay. If I'm sitting up or walking, like, it just, the pain is that much worse. So I'm participating in these cheer activities. We're going to each of the houses. We're decorating all 3 front doors. But I'm not well enough to get out of the car. I'm not well enough to actually participate. I'm just in the car suffering, but I'm still there. So we get through that. That's over with, whatever. I go home. Me and Zoe go, you know, Jimmy takes me back to my car, which is at the park where cheer practice is. And me and Zoe get in the car and we go home. I'm able to make it home. I'm fine, whatever. Still in excruciating pain. Get home, put Zoe to bed. You know, by the time we were home, it was probably like 8 o'clock. And then I put, you know, feed her dinner, put her to bed. And then it's 9 o'clock. And then I'm like laying down and I'm talking to my mom. And I'm like, should I go? Should I not go? You know, time's passing. It's 10 o'clock. By like 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, okay, after talking to my mom and going back and forth and her telling me, who cares if you have a hefty hospital bill, like, who cares if you have to pay a couple $1,000s, like, just go, you're in pain, it's not getting better, it's getting worse, like, just freaking go. So I don't know if it's my pride or whatever, but I like did not want to go. And I don't know, I just feel like when I think of going to the emergency room, I think like worst case scenario, like my limb just got chopped off, or I'm having a heart attack, or I'm choking, or I'm gonna give birth, or I was in a car accident, or something extreme. Like, I didn't feel like this justified a trip to the emergency room, so it was really hard to like sit there and say like, okay, let's go. But I needed to go. And then, of course, the issue of not having insurance was also, like, affecting my decision to go or not. Anyways, after going back and forth with my mom about it for, like, an hour. Oh, and then I decided to take my temperature, and now I had a 102-degree fever, which is kind of like a low-grade fever for an adult, but still a fever. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go. So my mom is like, okay, let's go. Which sucked because I should have taken Zoe's dad up on his offer, like, because he would have taken Zoe so that I could have gone to the hospital. But at this point, like, I couldn't drive myself to the hospital. My mom had to drive me, and Zoe was asleep, so I had to disturb her and wake her up and put her in the car and drag her with me to the hospital. So I should have listened to everybody earlier in the day, but I didn't. But whatever. My mom had to carry Zoe because she like wouldn't wake up, which is better because I didn't want to disturb her anyways. But my mom had to carry her and put her in the car for me because I can't, like, I could barely even walk, let alone lift Zoe. She's 75 pounds and 4'6", like she's almost my size. So my mom got Zoe into the car. She stayed asleep, so that's good. She got to sleep in the car, and she drove me, you know, like 30 minutes away to the hospital. And it was, by the time we got there, it was like 11:45. And I just told my mom, just drop me off, go back home, go to sleep. I'll let you know what happens. I'm sure, you know, at that point I was sure that I was going to be there for a few hours. And I didn't want to have my mom and Zoe waiting for me there. Like, if I needed to get an Uber home, like, I could have got an Uber home. But I wasn't going to make them sit there with me and wait. Yeah, there was just no way that I was going to sit there and make my mom and Zoe wait with me at the hospital. So I told them, just go home, go to sleep, and I'll figure it out. And if, you know, if I'm there overnight, then you guys can pick me up in the morning. And if not, then I'll just get an Uber home, whatever. No big deal. So I go into the emergency room. And my mom was like, she's like, I'm going to park in the parking lot and I'm going to wait to see what they tell you. Like, hopefully they even are willing to see you. So I'm like, okay. So she parks in the parking lot. And I go in, I check in, and I tell the guy at the front, because at this point I kind of still think it's my kidneys. I check in and I tell the guy I think I have a kidney infection. And I think because it's like such a big issue, they didn't make me wait in the waiting room at all. He was like, okay, give me your driver's license. He like checks me in, takes down my information. And as soon as I'm done checking in with him, I turn around and there's literally a nurse standing there waiting to take me back into the triage room. I did not even sit my butt down in the waiting room at all. And there was people in the waiting room waiting. It was a Friday night at the hospital. Like, it's popping. So I don't even wait in the waiting room for 1 second. I check in and immediately go back to the triage room. I kind of feel like it's because kidney infections can be an emergency, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. If any of you are a nurse or emergency room person, like, maybe you can comment down below and let me know if the reason for your visit has anything to do with like the order that you're seeing. I don't know. But they take me back into the triage room. She takes my vitals. She's asking me, okay, what's going on? I tell her basically everything I've told you guys. And she's like, okay, I'm going to order you a urine test and a blood test, and then we'll go from there. She's like, but you're going to be here for at least 2 hours. So at that point, I'm able to tell my mom. I text her because she's waiting for me in the parking lot to give her an answer what's going on. I text my mom and I'm like, okay, I just was triaged and they told me it's going to be at least 2 hours. So you're free. Go home. Go to sleep. I'll keep you updated, whatever. So after triage, they take me back into the emergency room. There's no open beds for me. So there's like this hallway with these benches, and each bench is like numbered, and I have my own friggin' bench. And the lady gives me a cup and she's like, okay, there's the bathroom over there, like, go pee in this cup and then just sit down on your bench and wait for someone to come get it. So at this point I'm starting to be more stressed because now it's like midnight, and oh my god, I swear to God, you guys, filming this has been a nightmare. You guys, when I tried to film this the first time, the gardener started gardening, the dog started barking, and then my camera didn't work. Right now, earlier today, the gardeners were gardening, the dogs just freaking started barking right now, and my camera in the middle of this story has already died, so I've switched to my phone now, if you haven't noticed a change in the footage. But I'm trying so hard, you guys. Had to stop recording for a second because my dog started barking. But anyway, so I'm in the emergency room. At this point, I'm starting to be stressed because there's people around me that are having emergencies, and that kind of shit gives me anxiety, like really bad. It doesn't gross me out. Like, nothing grosses me out. Honestly, nothing grosses me out. You could be shitting and puking in front of me at the same time. It doesn't, I mean, of course it's gross, but I'm not one of those people that's like so grossed out I can't handle it. It doesn't make, you know, there's those people also that like, if they see someone throw up, it makes them throw up. I'm not like that either. I just get scared. It just scares me when somebody is having like any kind of medical emergency or health issue. It just gives me this overwhelming anxiety. Like, I just want to run away. I want to close my eyes and cover my ears and run away. I want to like hide under something. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't even want to be there. Like, I could never be a nurse. I could never be a doctor. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist because I wanted to work on dead people. Like, I can handle death, I can handle shit, I can handle throw up, I can handle gross rotting stuff. I just can't handle like a living person having a medical emergency. I don't know why. I hope that's not offensive to anyone, but really, like, it's not that it's gross, it's just that it scares me. I'm like so scared and have so much anxiety and just like, oh my God. So if you're one of my friends or if you're ever around me and you're having a medical emergency, I don't know if I would be the person that you'd want around you during that time, because hopefully I would be good at calling 911 at least, but I don't know if I can jump in there and like do CPR and all that crap. I don't know about that. But anyway, so I'm in the emergency room and now I'm just stressed because there's something wrong with me, and there's also all these people around me having emergencies. It's Friday night, so it's probably a little bit busier. I don't know why that happens, but it seems like, because I've been in the emergency room before for myself and also for my daughter, but it always seems like it's a little bit busier on the weekends. So there's like always a lot of old people in the emergency room too, and I personally feel like old people are a little more dramatic, but maybe not. I don't know. But there's this old man sitting in this wheelchair. I don't know why he's there. He feels well enough to bitch and complain the whole time. So he must not be in too bad of shape, because he's just sitting in this wheelchair like bitching and complaining loudly. And then there's this other lady in this other room, and she's like screaming for help. And then at the same time, you can just hear her like violently vomiting. And then, you know, there's some other girl like in a club dress, like holding her head, it's bleeding. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, what an awful Friday night. It's just so crazy. Then there's people in there with their kids, and then there's people in there holding their throw up buckets, and I'm just like, oh my God, get me out of here. Like, I don't want to be there. So, and then just knowing how many germs are in there, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just so dirty and germy, and people are sick, and like bodily fluids, and just I don't want to be in there. I don't even want to be sitting on this bench. I'm like trying not to touch anything. I sure as hell don't want to go into the freaking bathroom that I have to go into. But I have to go in the bathroom and give my urine sample, pee in this cup. I'm in the bathroom. I'm like trying not to touch anything. Oh my God. So then I come out. I sit on the bench like she told me to. And now I'm sitting in the hallway holding a cup of pee. Yeah, it's my own, but it's still gross. It's kind of embarrassing because I'm sure people are looking at me like, ew, that's fucking gross, you know? And I stood there for like 30 minutes. And then finally someone comes and they take my urine sample and they're like, okay, like, see you, you know? I'm like, I already know it's going to take forever. And then some other lady comes and she checks me in, and I end up sitting on this bench for like 2 hours. And then they come to me and then they send the guy that's going to draw my blood for the blood test. And he was cool. He comes up and he has his like little cart. What is he called? A phlebotomist. He has like his phlebotomist cart. And it has all these like test tubes and things that you put the blood in and just whatever. So he was cool. He had long hair. He was kind of handsome. He had blue eyes. White guy. He had snakeskin boots on, and I was like, okay, all right, this guy got some snakeskin boots under his scrubs and his lab coat. He got a lab coat and some freaking snakeskin boots and some long hair and some blue eyes, and I'm like, all right. And he was very nice. He's like, all right, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm gonna take your blood, and he's like, I have to draw blood out of like both your arms because we gotta get a clean sample, or I don't even know, but. So as he's drawing my blood, he draws my blood out of this arm first, and obviously anytime anytime anyone ever draws my blood on this arm, they always make comments about my tattoos or ask me about my tattoos or whatever. So we start talking about tattoos. And then he's like telling me the tattoos that he wants. And he also has this like huge fang on this like necklace. And anyways, he's like, I want to get a wolf on this arm and an Indian chief on this arm because I'm an Apache and my grandfather killed this wolf for me and my Indian name is Young Wolf or whatever. I don't know. He was a trip. Because I would have never guessed that he's Native American, but supposedly he is because he was a total white guy. And he was just really cool. And then anyways, he was like asking me like questions about myself, if I smoke, if I drink, whatever, just the routine questions that you get asked at like doctor's appointments. And I was like, oh, you know, I rarely drink, maybe like once a month. And I was like, I don't really smoke, but sometimes I do socially. He's like, oh, me too. He's like, I bet you never heard a doctor say that before. And I was like, no, I haven't. He's like, yeah, he's like, I don't see anything wrong with socially smoking. He's like, we're all gonna die one day anyways. He's like, you'll probably never hear another doctor say that. He's like, but I socially smoke too. I was like, okay. So he was just really cool. He like brought down my nerves because he was kind of flirty, but like just kind of fun, kind of nice. He was probably in his late 30s, by the way. But just a cool guy, kind of like made my experience a little bit better. Finishes drawing my blood, tells me, all right, it's going to be about 2 hours before we figure out what's wrong, but we're going to let you know if you have any infection in your blood, whatever. Make sure that you're not, you know, you don't have sepsis or anything, and we'll let you know. So then he goes on his way. I'm sitting on the bench. Then like an hour later, the doctor comes up, the emergency room doctor, and he's asking me some questions, blah, blah, blah. He was really cute too. All the doctors in this, all the male staff, the doctors and the male nurses were all very attractive and younger, you know, like in their like mid to late 30s. And so that made my experience a little bit better. All the ladies were super nice too. Honestly, all the staff was really nice. I went to St. Jude's in Fullerton, by the way. And my overall experience was really nice. But after the emergency room doctor came and talked to me, you know, he just asked me some questions and then went on his way. And then I was sitting on this bench waiting and waiting to hear the results from my urine and my blood test. And then what else? Oh, by this time it's like 2 a.m. and I'm so tired. And I was sitting next to this bin that was filled with all these like sheets and blankets. And I started thinking like, okay, because I'm on this bench. And I started thinking like, okay, I'm freaking tired. I'm not in a room. I'm not in a bed. Maybe I'll just lay down on this bench and go to sleep. But I didn't want to lay down on the like bare bench because it's gross and probably has germs on it and everyone's butt sitting on there and who knows what's on their butt. Like, I don't know. So a nurse walked by, a random nurse, and I was like, hey, excuse me, like, do you think I could get some blankets and lay down on this bench? And he was like, actually, we're about to put you in a room. I'll be right back. So I was like, oh my God, thank God. So he comes back like 5 minutes later and he's like, hey, come with me. We're going to put you in a bed. So I was like, thank God, I can go to sleep. So I finally get in my room, hop into this bed. I couldn't have been any happier to see this bed. It's like 2 a.m. I still don't know what's wrong with me. And they are admitting me at this point. They're like, okay, we're going to admit you to stay overnight. So in my head, I'm like, great. Like, I'm going to have a hefty hospital bill because now I'm staying overnight. And you know, they've already ran 2 tests on me and now I'm admitted into a room. Like, great. But whatever, at least I'm there. And he's like, the nurse is going to come in and she's going to give you 2 bags of IV fluids and then some painkillers and some Zofran for your nausea. So I was like, okay. And, you know, I'm just seeing the bill add up in my head. And he's like, we still don't know the results of your test, but we'll let you know shortly. So then the nurse comes in. She's like, hi, like, I'm nurse so-and-so. She's super nice. She's like, I'm going to hook you up to your IV. We're going to get some fluids going. So she just does the needle part in my arm. And at this point, I had already had my blood drawn out of both of my, whatever this part of my arm is called. I was like, are you going to have to put my IV here? And she's like, no, we could do it lower on your arm. So they did it on like this part so that I wouldn't have to worry about putting a needle in the same spot, and also so I wouldn't have to worry about like bending my arms. So she puts the needle in, and then she's about to hook me up to the IV bag, but then this other lady comes in and she's like, hi, and she shows up with a wheelchair, and she was like probably like more like my age. She's like, hi, I brought you a wheelchair. She's like, I have to take a oh no, before this, some guy takes me back and I have to get a CAT scan, whatever. That's before I got in my room. I got a CAT scan, took like 10 minutes, and then I got in my room. And then this lady shows up with this wheelchair, and she is like, hi, I'm going to do an ultrasound on you. She's like, do you want a wheelchair? And then I was in so much pain, and she was the only person that offered me a wheelchair. So even though I could have walked if I had to, I was like, I'm going to take her up on her offer and get my ass in this wheelchair. And she wheeled me off to the ultrasound room. But I was like kind of worried because I was like, wait a minute, I already got a CAT scan. Like, I know they're not the same thing, but they're kind of similar. I was like, how come you have to do an ultrasound? Because now I'm starting to think, okay, there is something wrong with me because they're ordering more and more tests. So she's like, oh, they just saw something on the CAT scan, so they wanted to get a closer look with the ultrasound. So I was like, okay. So she takes me back to the ultrasound, wheels me back to the ultrasound room, does the ultrasound, and by the way, I forgot to mention the CAT scan, so that's why I didn't talk about that part. But it was the first time I ever had a CAT scan, and I laid on this big table, and it's like I went through this giant donut, and they kind of like moved me back and forth, and they told me to breathe and hold my breath, and it was kind of scary because it was kind of in like a dim room. I don't know, but the people were nice. But yeah, side note, that was my first CAT scan ever. And so then fast forward back to the ultrasound. She did a regular ultrasound like on top of my stomach, you know, like they do for pregnant ladies. I've had that before because I was pregnant before. And then she also had to do an internal ultrasound where they stick this like dildo shaped thing up your vajayjay and do an ultrasound from the inside, which I've also had before because I had like after birth complications. So I've had that before. So I've had both. The whole ultrasound process took about 30 minutes. One of the first questions I asked her, I'm like, I'm not pregnant, right? She's like, no. She's like, I don't see a baby in here. And because like part of me, even though I practice safe sex, I'm not on birth control. So like there was a small part of me that was like, oh my God, like, could I be pregnant? And then I'm like, no, it's impossible. And then I was like, could this be like an ectopic pregnancy and that's why I'm having pain? You know, like there was a little part of me that was like a little stressed. So like the first question I asked this lady, I was like, I'm not pregnant, right? And she's like, no. She's like, laughed. She's like, no. I'm like, whew, okay, thank God. So she takes about 30 minutes to do both of the different ultrasounds. She's taking all these pictures on the ultrasound machine or whatever. She was super nice. And then she wheels me back to my bed. I get in the bed. The nurse is like, okay, now I'm going to hook you up to the IV. She hooks me up to the IV. She gives me Toradol, which is a painkiller. She just gives it to me through the IV. And then she also gives me Zofran for nausea through the IV. And then hooks me up to the bag. I asked for another blanket. And then I told her, I said, can I go to sleep? And she's like, yeah. So I'm like trying to fall asleep, and then the emergency room just starts popping again, and like people in the other rooms are like, there's like this older lady like screaming and yelling for help, and she's like, I could hear her like violently vomiting, and I'm like starting to get nervous because I'm like, how it doesn't sound like, I can't see, but it doesn't sound like anyone is in there helping her, and I'm like, why is nobody helping this lady? Like someone needs to help her. And there's like moaning and groaning, and oh my God, I just wanted to like get out of there. And my nurse, who was like the one that was hooking me up to the IV bag, she was like she came in the room, or before she left the room, she's like, do you want me to turn the TV off so you could sleep? And I was like, no. I was like, I want to leave it on to drown out the other sounds. And she was like, okay. She's like, I don't think the sounds of the emergency room or the patients bother her because she's probably used to it. But I think she understood what I was saying without having to say, like, I don't want to hear the lady next door screaming anymore. She was like, okay. She's like, it's fine. She's like, you could turn it up. So I tried to fall asleep. I literally had to plug my ears and put the blanket over my head, and I fell asleep that way. And I was able to fall asleep for about 2 hours because it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning by the time I was done with the ultrasound and all my tests and everything. And I fell asleep until about 5, and then I was awakened by my doctor talking to me. And have you ever been woken up out of a dead sleep and you're so tired that you're like awake but you can't like wake up? That's what happened to me. He was like waking me up, except for he didn't touch me. So I don't know how long he was trying to wake me up for because I'm a heavy sleeper. He was like just talking to me. So I like woke up and it like startled me. And then I could see him talking to me, but I was so tired and like still half asleep that I didn't know what he was saying. So he was like talking to me, and then I like could barely hear him, could barely comprehend. You know, I'm just waking up, I'm like struggling. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, say it again. I literally told him to repeat himself like 5 times. I think by the 5th time he was irritated. And I remember telling him, I was like, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm like struggling to wake up. I have no idea what you're saying. Can you say it one more time? He was like, it's okay. And then all I could remember him saying was, you have a ruptured ovarian cyst. And he's like, that's why you have so much pain. He's like, because all of the fluid from the cyst is now floating around your entire abdominal cavity, and it's irritating all your other organs, and it's causing you pain and discomfort. He's like, it's really good that you came in because sometimes, I think this is what he said. I'm pretty sure he said sometimes an ovarian cyst can lead to appendicitis, or I feel like that's what he said, but I don't know if that's true. Maybe I just didn't hear him correctly. But I do know that he said it was good that I came in because sometimes you can have complications from an ovarian cyst rupture. But I didn't. Mine just ruptured. And then I went back to sleep. Because I think I asked him, or he's like, you can go back to sleep or whatever. He's like, we'll come check on you. I think I still had one more bag of IV fluid to go, or I don't know. For whatever reason, he let me go back to sleep. So then I go back to sleep. I'm so tired. And I wake up at 7 to my nurse. She's like unhooking my IV bag. She's like, okay, your bags are done. And this time I'm a little bit more alert and awake, even though I'm still super tired. And if you haven't followed the time frame, I went to the emergency room Friday night at like 11:30. And it is now Saturday morning at 7 a.m. when I'm finally waking up in the emergency room. And this nurse just kind of repeats what the doctor said. And I told her, I was like, I know the doctor came in here last night, but I don't remember what he was saying. I was so tired. She's like, it's okay. She's like, you have an ovarian cyst and it ruptured. And, you know, when they did the CAT scan, they saw free fluid in your body. So that's why they wanted to do the ultrasound. And the ultrasound showed that you had an ovarian cyst on your right ovary that ruptured. And it was about 3 inches big or whatever. And so now, you know, all the fluid that is inside the cyst is now floating inside your abdominal cavity, and that's why you're having pain and discomfort. And she said, everything looks fine. She said, sometimes when this happens, it requires emergency surgery because it can cause your ovary to like twist, I guess. But that didn't happen to me. She's like, your urine test came back clean. There's no signs of infection in your urine. And she's like, your blood test came back clean. There's no signs of infection in your blood. But the CAT scan and the ultrasound did pick up the free fluid, which is now we know is from your ovarian cyst. So yeah, so I was like relieved because I had peace of mind. And like I said, ovarian cysts are super common. And a ruptured ovarian cyst is not as common as just having an ovarian cyst, but they're not necessarily dangerous when they rupture. They're just painful, but in rare cases it can be dangerous. But for me, it wasn't dangerous. And sometimes all that free fluid can cause an infection, but oftentimes not. Your body will just absorb all the free fluid. So they recommended a follow-up appointment, and they were going to send me home with a painkiller, just ibuprofen 600, and then told me, you're going to have pain for the next couple days, but once your body absorbs all the fluid, like, you'll be fine. And then she's like, we're going to discharge you right now. And I was like, okay, do I have to get out of this bed right now? I was like, I'm so tired, and my ride's not here yet. And she's like, no, she's like, we don't need the bed right now, so I'll let you stay in the bed. So I called my mom, and good thing it was like 7 in the morning, and she was awake at home at that point. And she was like, okay, I'll come get you in 30 minutes. It just happened to work out perfectly. So I told the nurse, I was like, okay, I'm going to just stay in the bed until my ride gets here, and then I'll leave. And she's like, that's fine. So then she gave me all my paperwork and unhooked me from the IV and all that. And then I just laid in bed for 30 minutes, and then my mom called. She's like, hey, I'm outside. So then I walked out of the emergency room, got in the car, went home, and had to start my day because that is mom life. Zoe had her football game. If you remember me earlier in this freaking story, she had her first football game to cheer at that day. And it is like 8 o'clock in the morning by the time I got home, and her game was at 10. So I had just enough time to get her breakfast and get her in her cheer uniform and head to the freaking football field for this game. So I literally went straight from the emergency room back into mom life on like very, very little sleep, maybe like 2-3 hours of sleep, and right back into it. And I was laughing with my mom because I was like, that's typical mom life. Like, moms are so fucking badass. I'm sorry, but all these ladies want to say, I'm a bad bitch. No. As a mom, I feel like you are not a fucking bad bitch until you're a mom. Like, moms are the real bad bitches. We literally do it all. Even if you have a husband, I know plenty of moms that obviously have husbands, and they still fucking do it all. Like, moms with multiple kids, like, moms are fucking badass, and this is just one example of why we're badass. But yeah, so spent Friday all day in pain, still doing all the shit I need to do, working from home on the computer, taking Zoe to her things, whatever. Even do everything I have to do with her until she's in bed. Then it's finally, 12 o'clock at night. I'm like, I have all night while she's sleeping to handle my shit and go to the emergency room. Go to the emergency room all night. By the time she wakes up, I'm out of there, and it's time to jump right back into mom life. And I go straight from the emergency room to the football field, right back into mom life. And that's why moms are bad bitches, because we're like superheroes. And yeah. So laughing with my mom about that, because I'm sure any moms watching this can relate. That's just the way it is. And yeah, so I was freaking exhausted though. I was so tired. Realistically, I should have left the emergency room and gone home and rested for my health, but there's just no time for me. So went to the football field, just super tired, but still doing it, exhausted, in pain still, because essentially the emergency room didn't do anything for me. They just did a bunch of tests. It's not like they fixed the problem. They just figured out what the problem was. So, still in pain, and took my ibuprofen, and yeah, for the next couple days after that, for about 4 days after that, I was in the same pain. And then like on the 4th day, I woke up feeling better, because I guess my body had absorbed all that crap from the ovarian cyst, which is gross. And I made the mistake of Googling what's in an ovarian cyst, and it's fucking disgusting. Like, I don't recommend it. I don't know why, but when I thought about an ovarian cyst rupturing, I just pictured this like clear, like water-like fluid, but it's so not that. Because essentially a cyst is like a pimple. So if you've ever squeezed a pimple, all the freaking pus and shit comes out of it. Like, that's basically what a cyst is. And sometimes ovarian cysts can be like filled with hair and just, oh my God, just so gross. The human body can be really amazing and really gross at the same time. But so I'm like, okay, makes sense why this would be so painful, because I'm picturing just like a watery, clear liquid coming out of this ovarian cyst, but it's like pus. Like literally now my whole body was filled with pus. So I had to wait for my body to absorb all of that crap. And I was out for about 4 days. After Saturday, after the game, I was able to rest all day Sunday. I rested all day Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. My mom had offered to take Zoe to and from school, and there was about 2 days that I was able to just lay down all day, and I needed to, and it was nice. And I was still in so much pain after, like the 4 days after the emergency room, that I did not shower for like 4 days, which is so gross, but I just didn't feel good at all. I didn't even feel good enough to shower. It was still so painful. But yeah, I'm glad it only lasted for about 4 days after, because I was talking to my girlfriend who's had like multiple ovarian cyst rupture, and she told me her last one, she was freaking out for like 2 weeks, and it took her like 2 weeks to heal from that. So I'm glad that mine only took like 4 days. So yeah, that is the story of my ruptured ovarian cyst. And I feel like I hope this was informative, maybe interesting. I hope you enjoyed hearing my experience of a ruptured ovarian cyst. I know everyone has slightly different experiences with things that happen to them. But I thought that maybe sharing this experience might help someone, because maybe, who knows, maybe in your future you're going to have a ruptured ovarian cyst. But knowing that this happened to me, maybe you won't be as scared if it happens. Because I know, knowing that my mom had an ovarian cyst, I wasn't as scared when my doctor told me that I had one. Because from knowing my mom's story, I knew that they're super common. But had no one around me ever had an ovarian cyst before, maybe I would have been like super scared when my doctor told me that I had one, you know? But hopefully my experience and sharing it helps you guys. And if not, hopefully you guys at least enjoyed hearing this. Hopefully it wasn't too all over the place or confusing, because I'm just telling this off the top of my head. So hopefully you guys were able to follow along. I know it was really long. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video and you want me to tell more stories about things that happened to me, then let me know by giving this video a big thumbs up. Come say what's hi to me, and come say what's hi. Wow. Come say what's up to me in the comment section below. I love to hear from you guys. And if you have any questions regarding this topic or this story, like, feel free to ask me. I'll ask you. Wow. I need to get off of this filming because I'm losing it now. I'm getting all tongue-tied. Feel free to ask me any questions regarding this experience. I will try to answer your questions to the best of my ability, just based off my experience. Obviously, I'm not like a medical professional, and I'm not here to give medical advice, but if you have, questions that I can answer based off what happened to me, I will happily do that. So leave your questions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe, you guys, so you don't miss out on my future videos. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Oh my god. Okay, I finally got through this video, you guys. I made it through. Talking to yourself for like an hour is actually extremely hard and draining, so hopefully this story that I'm about to tell you makes sense. We'll see.